What is consciousness? The live stream of consciousness is on a quest to unravel the mystery of existence. Every episode, we ask the fundamental question that has captivated human minds for centuries. Is consciousness merely a product of our brains, or does it connect us to something greater? Explore the very fabric of our thoughts. Don't miss a moment. Expand your awareness and tap into the boundless potential that resides within you. Welcome to the live stream of consciousness.
Yes, welcome to the live stream of consciousness. Welcome back. If you are back, welcome here for the first time. If you're here for the first time, a lot of times my guests bring some new people to the table and some people are here for the first time. So welcome. Your energy is always appreciated here. I even have, do I have it nearby and handy? Where the heck did I put it? I have a little bell. That's my, it's right here. My little new subscriber bell. If you tell me in the comments that you've subscribed, I will ring the bell together and we'll create an interactive moment. But I just wanted to say hello. Welcome to Ninja Kitty and my regulars, Tim. Welcome, Penny. I see you out there. Thank you for showing up. I'm going to welcome in advance any of the Soma people who are here from the class that I met tonight's guest at. I know a lot of people were excited to see this conversation. So we do have a bell ringer out there. Joyce Schumann, she subscribed. Awesome. Thank you so much, Joyce. This is a bell from one of my listeners, and it just became the subscription bell, right? They always tell you to ring the bell on YouTube and stuff. So I actually have a bell to ring. Thank you so much for subscribing. You're helping this thing grow, whatever it is. And I appreciate it. I see Tim out there in Brazil, always giving me my international flavor. Thank you, Tim. I'm excited. Tonight's guest is somebody I met in the Akashic Records class. I've spoken about it here on the show. And I met so many amazing people in that class. I felt like I was connected to each one, and I haven't had the chance to actually spend one-on-one time with each one of them, but I figured I might take the opportunity inviting them here and doing that. That's part of the purpose of this show, right? To interview everybody on this planet one at a time so that I can connect them to everybody else. So I'm very, very excited. Tonight's guest is Wendy Gayle. And it's interesting, I noticed I'm starting to have a lot of the people that I talk to have near-death experiences in their past. And I feel like there's a connection between kind of nearly crossing over to the other side and kind of experiencing it and bringing something back. And then being able to share that wisdom or even be inspired at that point to explore that wisdom just from the experience. I think that's, and also we found a lot of times, I remember speaking to people, trauma was the thing that brought them to where they're at. Even just, even though it wasn't a near-death experience, it was a traumatic upbringing or something like that brought them around to a spiritual journey. So Wendy Gayle had a profound near-death experience. I'm reading from her website, and that was the catalyst for her spiritual awakening, completely altering the course for her life overnight. A transformative event that ignited a deep passion within her to explore the realms of advanced healing, full body trance channeling. I can't wait to talk about that. Akashic Records reading and mediumship. Certification in an impressive 16 healing modalities. You know how I love all of the healing modalities. So I am super excited to welcome to the show and welcome to everybody in the live stream of consciousness, Wendy Gayle. Welcome. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm well. How are you doing, Michael?
I'm doing great, and I'm feeling wonderful having you here on the show. So double bonus. This is a conversation I've been looking forward to a long time, since we were in that class, and I was always seeing you up in that little square and feeling your energy, and then kind of afterwards digging into your website a little bit. I haven't had the pleasure of actually seeing your channel, but some of the stories that were shared were amazing. So I'm hoping to at some point experience that. But let's start the show. We have Grace Grella out there, going to be a great show. We have Lily, Ninja Kitty, welcoming Wendy. We have Tim welcoming Wendy. My listeners are always so welcoming. I love that. That's amazing.
Thank you.
So I mentioned that we have to kind of do a couple things, and then I'm going to open the floor to you and hold space for you, which I'm excited to do. But the first couple things I like to do are ask these simple questions, just to kind of, they're like prompts, right? So the first prompt is, what is consciousness? What are we even talking about when we talk about consciousness?
In my perspective, divine consciousness is who we truly are. I believe that is the essence of us. I know that we feel that we are our bodies, but guidance keeps telling me that we are so much more than what sits in our chair. And so the thought, the understanding that we are part of the whole, that we are the same as our guidance, the same as source, is that belief that I've really settled into over the years. So
I love it.
consciousness is us.
It's perfect. That's perfect. It's funny because I don't tell everybody what the first question is, right, on the show, but when I do, people get very nervous, like, oh my God, how am I going to answer that? And I find that I've never had anybody go on and on and on about it. They just find it right away. You know, they find, like you said, it was great to watch you respond to that question, because the first thing you did was you took a nice breath. You were like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And you prepared yourself for it. And so that was great. That was a wonderful, wonderful answer. And I think the next question really leads right into you and holding space for you. Sometimes I have had like actors and different people on the show who I haven't really had spiritual conversations with, so I don't know where they're at, but I kind of know where you're at. So I know that you hold these beliefs. So the question is, if you have a moment that you can remember, or a story that you can share, that you realize that was like indicative of, okay, there's more to existence than just kind of reading, writing, arithmetic, and what I'm taught in school and even at home. There's more to it. There's other things. Is there a specific moment that you can remember?
Wow. I think that my biggest moment was when I recognized that all of the things that I wished I was, clairvoyant, clairsentient, all of the clairs, I recognized that I was already psychic. And it was kind of one of those moments that surprised me so much, because I answered a question that my teacher asked me, and they looked at me and said, how did you know? And I said, I just knew. And when the whole conversation was over, I really had to take a look at, oh, I guess I am psychic, right? And had to begin to own it. And I think that that's one of the things that in our spiritual lives, we don't always own our gifts. We don't always own ourselves as healers. We don't always own ourselves as channels. So
Right.
that was
It's true.
a small but mighty moment for me. Yeah.
It sounds amazing. And a lot of people, I think, don't feel worthy, or they don't recognize that in themselves. But that sounds like a great moment. Do you remember what the question was?
It was a really personal question that my teacher asked, and I don't remember what the question was. It's been a long time ago.
Okay, but the
In the
moment stood
90s,
out.
yeah, the moment stood out. I still remember the look on her face when I answered the question, and her response, and how I felt. It was, it's one thing that's really stuck with me. So
That's awesome. That's
yeah.
really awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so at a very young age, you kind of recognized your own connection, right? But that was previous to your NDE, previous to the near-death experience, or no, that was after?
Yeah, as a kid, I always knew that there were spirits. It was my parents, how parents are. You're just making it up. It's not real. But I absolutely knew that there were angels and things that watched me. So I would get dressed in the closet so that they couldn't see me when I was getting
Wow, really? Wow.
kid. That was what I would do as a
Right.
kid.
Right,
Just
right.
pretty
Like
funny.
it even mattered. Your perception was like you had right.
Yeah, I had to hide in the closet to change my clothes. But
Great.
I really am a late bloomer, Michael. I didn't even awaken to my spiritual journey until I was 40. And so,
Wow.
yeah, and it was connected to the near death experience. It just took me on a whole new trajectory in my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
So all right. So then I'm imagining that you realized this connection that you had, but you weren't pursuing it. You just were like accepting it from a young age and just like, okay, I'm psychic. And from then till 40, just is there anything that happens from then till 40 or not until the near death experience?
Not not until the near death experience. I believed in ghosts. I believed in all of these things, but didn't really know that I had any special gifts. And I
Gotcha.
think that a lot of people are like that because
Mhm.
it's just kind of like a normal everyday occurrence to see things, hear things, feel things, and you don't think too much about it until something
Right.
happens to really draw your attention to it.
Right.
So,
Well, you know what, that you bring up something interesting there, that there's two parts of it, right? There's the awareness of it existing even, and then the awareness of your connection to it,
right.
right? And I think you're right. That does make a lot of sense because I can remember growing up like believing in ghosts and things, and it's not. I realized at one point, so I say that when I was a kid, I was believing in ghosts, but there was a point in my adulthood that I exchanged the word believe for know because when I knew something, I knew it. It was just a feeling. It wasn't a belief. It was a
Right.
knowing. So I always, whatever I believe that exists. But like you said, okay, so bring us to the near death experience and what happened and how that changed everything.
Yeah, I got very, very ill, and we didn't quite know what it was, thought it was a flu. Um, I was married. My husband was in the entertainment industry. Life was good. And I got sick and kind of came back from it and then got sick again. We thought it was a relapse, and that happened 3 times. The 3rd time, I was like just totally out of it for almost a week. I didn't eat. I hardly woke up. I was just, down for the count.
Wow.
And when I did wake up, it was like I felt great. I woke up, I felt great, and instead of saying, "Wow, I'm well, I'm healthy," the first conscious thought that I had was, "I'm a healer." And I'm like, "What?" Because up until that point in time, I had no I had no thoughts like that. I'd never even read a metaphysical book.
Wow.
And so that change through the near death experience, I had a walk-in experience, and so through that soul exchange, everything in my life changed. My relationship ended. I my job changed. I moved, and it was like the beginning of a whole new life that was quite a little bit scary because I had no clue. I had absolutely
Yeah, that's interesting, and it's also interesting to me because I have heard that quite a few times in the last month or two, the whole concept of the walk-in, what the
yeah,
walk-in experience is all about.
yeah.
Can you kind of explain that a little bit for anybody in my audience who might not know what that is?
Okay. So sometimes it's called a soul exchange, and that kind of helps people understand a little bit better what it is. And so it's done by agreement. The souls have a soul contract, a soul agreement that at a point in time when the soul that is inhabiting the body is complete with its journey, that it will step out and a new soul will step in and move forward so that you don't have to go from being born to get to a certain place.
So
And
let me stop you there. Let me stop you there because this is great. I love this. Because I've heard of it, but I haven't had to be able to talk to anybody who actually experienced it. So I understand the part of the agreement. What is the purpose of skipping that part of the human experience? Because I thought, I mean, I guess whatever I thought. I mean, it's said that, you know, the human experience is meant to be an experience as a human. So
Yeah.
splitting that between souls is an interesting concept. So
Yeah.
what would be the purpose of skipping that is, I guess,
Okay.
the question.
So I think that for each individual, maybe there is a different purpose.
Okay.
For me, what happened was, and you know, it's been a long time that I've been studying and trying to find information and make pieces fit on
Hmm.
something that's a phenomenon that there's just not much information about.
Hmm.
And what happened for me is that shortly before I got ill, my mom died. And you know that you can have one soul in multiple bodies in the same lifetime. And what had happened evidently is that that was the soul that, you know, inhabited this body was a piece of my mom's soul. And
Wow.
when she passed, she, you know, then she reclaimed, pardon me, reclaimed that aspect of her soul, and the new me stepped in, right? The new soul.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow. Okay. Okay. So I guess that was going to be my next question, was this new soul obviously has reference of the old soul and can
yes.
so you had memory of yourself and the life that that soul had lived.
Yes, to a degree.
Okay.
And again, people are very different. I've spoken to people
Mhm,
that don't remember anything.
mhm, mhm,
You know, I have kids and I remembered my kids. There was never any doubt that, you know, I had kids, but a
mhm,
lot of the circumstances, a lot of the memories
mhm.
from being young and a teenager were just gone or very, very fuzzy. I had to work
Not very
really,
specific, right?
really hard, right?
Yeah.
The the interesting thing is that, you know, our cells hold on to cellular memory. So there's when you're superimposing a different soul into the physical body, it adds its its element to your
Mhm,
energy and your body, but also can pick up on the memory that's already there.
mhm,
So
mhm, mhm. And I
uh,
would imagine also, I mean, especially with the concept of the Akashic records, that there's already a soul connection there between your kids. You know, I mean, it's much more than just the life there that you're living with the kids. It's a
right.
soul connection with those kids anyway.
Right.
So, wow,
Absolutely.
wow.
Absolutely. So I, you know, didn't recognize I had no training, no point of reference whatsoever. And I
Mhm,
was living in near Santa Monica, California at the time. And I was at the outdoor mall with a bunch of friends. And the first time I heard the terminology walk in was I'm walking along and here comes a guy full buckskin outfit with all the fringes and he walks straight up to me and I'm like, "Oh, hello." And he said, "Spirit wants me to tell you that you're a walk-in." And I'm like, "Um, okay, okay, thank you." And then he just like left. That happened 6 times, 6 different people.
Wow.
I went to a channeling circle with I'd never been, you know, to a channeling circle. I didn't know the channel. I'd never met anybody there. I just showed up
Mhm.
and, um, as the woman was channeling, the guide, like, points at me and goes, "You're a walk-in. You know, you need to get it together. You have work to
Wow.
do." And it was like,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah,
Okay, so part of the idea of a walk-in is a very it's a mission, right? It's like you come with a purpose,
yeah,
already equipped with the spiritual tools and connection to the power within yourself.
yeah.
Wow.
I think you still have to excavate all of that,
Okay.
right? I think that you still have to excavate all of that because there's
It's a
there's
good word. I like that word.
such a difference in before and after. And some people, you know, it's hard to come back from for some people. They're labeled schizophrenic or, ADD, put on medication. It's challenging. So,
Sure.
yeah.
And is there always that relationship, like a soul connection with the walk-ins? Or I mean, I'm imagining probably, right? It sounds like there's some
Yeah.
sort of soul connection there anyway, right? To make an agreement, they have to be connected some way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. There has to be some sort of a soul connection for the agreement to be made.
Mhm.
And, for many people that have gone through the experience, right, they have to uncover what it is that they're here to do. They don't automatically come in knowing what they're supposed to do.
Right.
And again, so I talk to a lot of people. I help people. I seem to be a magnet for the walk-ins, and I help them kind of find their balance, get into the physical body, and begin to understand what the path looks like, because that's why we're here, right? That's why the phenomenon occurs. And it's happening more frequently on the planet now than it did when it happened for me almost 30 years ago.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
And there's more walk-in experiences happening now because of the help that's needed on the planet. So
Yeah, actually, I definitely want to get back to that, because I want to talk about what's going on with humanity, right? What's going on right now with humanity. This is awesome. Oh my God, you're so much fun to talk to. If anybody out there, by the way, has any questions, I know this is like kind of, I feel like it's a safe place, where you can talk about this stuff and people aren't going to tell you you're wacko. And it's fascinating because, again, for me, and I was telling you this earlier, Wendy, I know so many people who practice so many modalities, and they all feel the same to me. They all feel so powerful and real, and like, again, like, it's not like, okay, I believe in tarot and I believe in this. It's like, I know that those things are actual conduits,
yeah.
to energy. But like you were saying, like, everybody's different. So even as you were describing that in the walk-in, in the concept of walk-ins, like every walk-in is going to be different. Well, that just makes perfect sense, right? And I think just that simple knowledge and kind of compassion is really something missing in today, is just to understand, like, okay, you may believe something and that may be 100% absolutely your truth, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean it's the truth for somebody else.
Right.
And just people have such a hard time understanding that, you know what I mean? Like, well, how could, if it's the truth, it's the truth. Well, it's like, it's a perspective, it's
Yeah.
and
Well,
I
yeah.
love those memes that show like drawings from different angles. From one angle it looks like lines, from the top it looks like circles, and then
Right.
it's like, it's so simple to understand. So I wish more people understand that. So, okay, so talk to me about, when did channeling come into the picture? That's something I really want to talk about.
Okay, so I started connecting with guidance in 1991.
Wow.
And I started connecting with a group of people that were healers and channels, and I felt like it was healers and channels and Wendy, right?
You didn't know where you fit.
I didn't know where I fit, right? But I did begin to study all the healing modalities and started to learn to channel after much arm twisting. I had a beautiful friend and teacher that was an extraordinary channel. And it's like I used to sit and listen to her and say, I wished I could do that, right?
I know the
And
feeling.
I was so immersed in learning how to be a healer. I was like, no, I'm not a channel. I don't have time to be a channel. It doesn't resonate. And she finally sat me down and said, I can see the energy coming out of your mouth when you're doing things. And
Wow.
so, yeah, and so the first guide that I connected with was Archangel Michael. And then it just kind of exploded from there. I've actually studied channeling for 15 years, studied
Wow.
art.
Well, I was going to say, you said 1990. I'm like, that's over 30 years of
Yeah, I've been
studying
channeling for
healing.
about 33 years almost.
Wow. And
Yeah.
Penny says now people do that with you.
So, and it's my passion.
I have a feeling that's one of the reasons we're talking, but we'll talk more about that. I feel very close to, again, to all of these modalities, and I feel like there are modalities inside me just trying to get out, like trying to figure out how to get out, and
Yeah.
it's all good. I love it. I love having these conversations. It really, really makes me feel like I feel like seeds get planted, and I could feel them germinate in my brain,
Good.
and it feels good. So I love doing this. So okay, so you started with Archangel Michael. Grace is saying Archangel Michael. We all love Archangel Michael.
Yes, we do.
And I guess I'm gonna kind of jump ahead for you, because you I didn't even put it up. You have a web page called Metatrons Mystical Muse, which I love the moniker that you have
Yes.
given yourself. So I think most people are familiar with Archangel Michael, but not everybody's familiar with Metatron. So
Mhm.
is there a story in between, or does it just go right to?
Oh no, there's a story. I channeled many different beings, and at one point in time I used to joke I felt like the runway at LAX, right? They would
Wow.
come in, I'd work, and then they'd leave, right? And I was like, wait, because I always wanted that deep relationship, and it was like that wasn't happening. But I could close my eyes in meditation and I could see all the guides lined up like in a row, and at the end of the row was this big energy, and I had no clue who it was. And I just continued to do my work, keep my head down, practice and learn and learn and learn. And then finally, Metatron stepped forward in 2008. And so he and I've been working together pretty exclusively since then.
Okay, so like 17, 18 years later.
Yeah. 15.
Wow.
Yeah, 15 years. Yeah.
Oh, 15 years later.
Yeah,
Okay.
15 years later. Yeah.
Okay, so can you give me, just again, can you describe Metatron? I know that I'm trying to figure out how to even ask the question.
So if you had a best friend, somebody with just the most amazing sense of humor, and somebody who irritated the dickens out of you sometimes, that's Metatron, right? He pokes me, right? Because he's teaching me. He teaches me so that then I can share with other people, but it can be frustrating. He's massive. He's a massive energy. And you could put 1,000 Metatron channels in a room, and we would all connect with Metatron differently, and we would bring through a different essence of his vibrational frequency, right? I know that
Wow.
the work that he and I do is about, teaching people to channel, or not teaching them to channel, but helping them to remember that they are channels, that they are oracles.
Right.
And he's very diligent working with the walk-ins. He is also beginning to work with the loved ones of psychic children, so the children can stay awake and not have to shut down.
Right.
And
Right.
that's an important thing too.
That's
So,
a great thing happening now too. I think, as the children are being born into families which who are encouraging it, and not, not saying, "Oh no, you're not seeing fake friends," or whatever it might be. I just want to acknowledge Kathy Stevenson. I'm so happy that she made it in. She was trying to get in and get the link and everything, and she says we all love Metatron, and Wendy and Raven Adams, also a Metatron fan out there.
Oh, he's amazing. Yes, he is.
Mickey Pizzerdo, I love Metatron's vibration. I love. So for me, you go to your website, which is down at the bottom of the screen right now, and the first thing you see is that sacred geometry. That's not the flower of life. What is that? That's Metatron, a symbol for
It's the
Metatron.
Metatron's cube. Metatron's
Metatron's
cube.
cube, right, that's what it was.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of the
And
name.
and Metatron's cube holds all of the sacred geometry that we know so far. Metatron says that there's more as we evolve. We'll be connecting to more sacred geometry, but he, that symbol holds all of the sacred geometrical shapes in one thing.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. It's really interesting because I feel like, oh, Ellen's out there. I say hello to Ellen. I feel like sacred geometry, especially images like this, I feel like, it's the same thing. There's this kind of, you have a resonation with it. I can remember from a young child, resonating with these kinds of symbols and images and not really knowing why. They were just kind of cool geometrically or whatever. But as you learn a little bit about dimensions and what it represents, I think it's really interesting, and it becomes cool. And I think for me, I don't know if we've ever discussed this. Some of the people on who watch the show have seen some of my artwork. I started to do some photography, and then taking that and using digital manipulation to use symmetry and kind of create these. I call them human mandalas because they look like mandalas, but they're made from photos of people. And I didn't, it was like that just happened, and I never really was a fan of mandala art. Like I said, sacred geometry, I kind of I resonated with, but like just mandala patterns were not specific to me. And then suddenly it kind of came through in my art. So you talk about channeling, and I think for me, my experience with channeling is looking back in my life and being like, I can remember, when I'm 20 years old playing in a band with my friends, and just that moment of connecting with the music and what I'm doing and playing, and connecting with the other souls that were doing it at the same time with me. We were all kind of channeling, we were summoning this vibration, and tuning into this thing, and being able to look back and recognize, okay, that's what Wendy's doing and Lynn is doing when they're bringing forth Metatron or Archangel Michael. And then over the years I've experienced, you said you've channeled many people, so tell me if this is in your experience as well. I've experienced people who have channeled great artists and musicians like John Lennon, and George Harrison, Pablo Picasso, people who are channeling spirits, and the things that happen and the experiences these people have are just mind-blowing sometimes. People who have no experience with music, not even knowing how to write a song, but going into a studio with musicians and being like, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm hearing, and what they produce is, it sounds like John Lennon wrote it. You know what I mean?
It's extraordinary.
It's really extraordinary. So I feel like those are the things you can't deny. And the same thing with psychic mediums. Certainly there are stories and things you see growing up where you're like, you're skeptical about it, but then you meet people who are very genuine, and just, you can't deny the things that they're saying, and where are they getting this information from, right? It's just
right.
Yeah.
And I think that the really great thing to remember is that we're all channels. We were created that way. And I think that at some point in time, that was just the normal way that everyone lived in resonance, in communicating through telepathy. And I believe that we are receiving all the time. It can be messages, music, it can be, scientific discoveries. There's just so much that happens that they don't call it channeling, but in truth, it's channeling. Everybody channels.
So
Everybody channels.
yeah, you've got me thinking here. And listen, we're on the same page, and I think people in the audience are on the same page. But I'm almost starting to think that people who are spiritual also are kind of, by nature, conspiracy theorists, right? Because what happened, right? I mean, like I believe, just like you did, we existed in this different state, and things changed, right? And
Mhm.
if you start to think about why, then you start to get into possible conspiracy theories of why, right?
Mhm.
um
Mhm.
but even it might be even bigger than that, right? I mean, not
Yeah.
conspiracy theories about the government, but even bigger, like Anunnaki. You start talking about the stories of
Yeah.
ancient, ancient man or ancient humanity and things like that.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
there's a bigger story to that
I
is
agree.
also very conspiracy theorist, right?
Yeah,
Kind of.
it seems like conspiracy theory, but I think that when you really take it out of the realm of the head or out of the realm of the left brain and get it into that right brain and feel the truth of it instead of trying to figure things out,
Mhm,
that we have a greater capacity for
mhm.
finding the truth, for
Right, right,
receiving the truth. So
right.
and I think that Metatron, of course, I told you, shares things with me all the time, and he talks about v- energy, vibration, and
Mhm,
everything is vibration, and the density upon this planet has shifted and changed over millennia, and so the different levels of energy or the density of energies impacts our ability to receive the messages
absolutely.
and to be the divine conduit. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I have a couple of good comments here. I want to just recognize we have Brian out there. Archangel Metatron, geometric perfection, casted through the human vessel, couples real well with Archangel Michael as the
Yeah.
two pillars of truth that pour equally through the very best of you. And I I feel like it's true. I feel like when people tap into those vibrations of being their best selves and doing the things that they love, that amplifies that. It snowballs, right? You start to see
Yeah.
the effects of letting go into those vibrations. I see Kristen out there. Love Wendy and Metatron. So happy to be here, Kristen. I have a
Right.
bell that I ring if you subscribe, and you let me know that you subscribed. Only because I've never seen your name. Welcome. I love that you're here and bringing your energy. And then Brian is saying, I see assemblages by which thy speaks. I'm not familiar with the quote, but I'm imagining you are the way you're giggling. Uh,
Mhm.
but yeah, I feel like humanity is at an amazing place, and it's really weird to say that out loud because you're surrounded by so much fear of where humanity is in the kind of regular world, right? And in the spiritual community, I think there's an excitement about where we're at because the shift is, I guess, kind of like a butterfly, right, going through metamorphosis. There's this kind of moment of, like, it seems like excruciating pain to get to that state, but that state is beautiful afterwards, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
metamorphosis. And
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to look at what's happening with humanity is we're going through uh that metamorphosis right now.
Yeah,
um
that rebirth, and sometimes it's hard to remember because things are painful. It's hard to remember that it's all in divine order, that
mhm,
there's nothing outside of the purview of source.
mhm,
And so just to understand that even if we don't have the big picture, that something's happening. So
mhm,
I was having a conversation with somebody earlier today about the war in Israel, and I was saying that Metatron had told me that it's a perfect reflection of duality, of separation,
mhm, mhm,
and that
mhm,
here
mhm,
we are in a really big way. We have the opportunity to heal. Right, we have the opportunity to heal this this piece, and
mhm,
so
mhm, mhm, mhm.
there's many of us that are very hopeful that this is
Beautifully said and expressed. And I was having a conversation with my mother earlier, and I feel like I don't always get through to her. God bless my mother. I love her. And I posted a photo of my mother after the conversation that we had. I found a photo popped up on my phone, of course, right? That was like, oh, there's my, and I'm like, oh, she's so beautiful. And I was just like, I never really do this. And I posted on Facebook, my beautiful mother, just saying hi, and here she is. And there was so much great response to it.
Yes.
But anyway, but I was having a conversation with her about the moment of what's going on. And I said, this is a great moment for humans to recognize accountability, right? And period, like, not side with who do you stand with, you know what I mean? It's not about that. It's you're either for this or against this kind of behavior, period. Right? I mean, that's, and I think it's a good opportunity for humanity to see that, as horrible as it is. You know, there are I think certain things that, you know, you kind of come to peace with as far as duality goes, right? Because good exists and evil exists, and there's a reason for both of those, you know. Sometimes it's easier than others to swallow, right? You know, I could hear my mother choking up as we talked about the current situation, you know. You know, and just being grateful, you know, that we're here and safe, but also hoping for peace with the rest of the world. So I've got a couple of other questions that might take us a little further out in another direction. Before I do that, I just want to kind of give you the stage and let you talk about, you know, your relationship with the entities that you channel, and what you do, and in other words, like the services that you offer people, and where you focus these abilities to help people.
Okay. So, you know, I used to say I teach, but really I channel Metatron, who teaches. And so he will bring together pieces of knowledge and create classes for people to begin to expand their awareness and to expand their consciousness. One of my favorite things is sharing channeling with people and helping them to find that within themselves and be able to use it more fully in their lives. And I have found, because I've been teaching channeling for over 20 years, and I find that there's no place that channeling can't weave in. Any job, any relationship, anything, you know, there's channeling fits. And so that's one of the great things. And I love doing the healing work. After studying the Akashic records, Metatron created a slightly new modality that he calls Akashic perineum work, which is releasing the body trauma. And so that's also really exciting. And so, and I just,
is that like a energetic exercise? How is that?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Is it like a key exercise or an energetic exercise?
The Akashic perineum healing is releasing the trauma that's held in the perineum of the body. And he says that that is the Akashic records of the physical body. So he's created a way to release that. And then just being with people. I love to facilitate retreats, and just my students become my friends, become my family, and I love it. I have
That's
the
awesome.
most beautiful extended family. I'm
That's
lucky.
awesome.
I'm so blessed. If you'd have told me 33 years ago that I would be sitting here today doing this work as my way of being in the world, I would have thought you had a hole in your head. But you know, but here we are.
Well,
Right?
I think the secret to that is authenticity. I think that you know, a lot of people can be like, oh, happiness and roses in life and this and that, and not really believe it or be in touch with it, you know, within themselves. You know what I mean? And I think that you know, as much as this great shift is happening and people are getting in touch, there's a lot of people kind of jumping on a bandwagon and kind of seeing it as an opportunity. Oh, I can tell people that I know how to help themselves, but really they haven't even helped themselves yet. You know what I mean? I
Right.
do,
Yeah.
and sometimes I don't think sometimes it's necessarily even intentional. I think that people do feel like, oh, I'm going to help heal people, and I
Mhm.
see people going on social media and saying a lot of great things, and I can see that they're talking to themselves, that they're trying to convince themselves of these
Right.
great things,
Yeah.
and that's a good thing too. You know, the wisdom is right. You know what
Right.
I mean? But you know, everybody's kind of gotta get right. You know what I mean? And
I agree. And one of the big things that Metatron talks about is discernment. And it
mm,
doesn't matter if the information is coming from Metatron and I or any other being on the planet,
mm,
to really feel it, how it resonates for you. Because again, just because it's someone else's truth or a message that a channel brings through
mhm,
doesn't mean that you have to say yes to that information. And
mhm,
so that is something that I believe that we need more of, is people using their discernment in all
mhm,
things.
mhm, mhm,
It's
mhm, mhm,
it's an important tool, particularly now when
mhm.
there's so many ways to be fooled.
Right.
I was
So
having
wouldn't you
a conversation about that too, right?
yeah, but wouldn't you say, and I guess I'm just thinking out loud, wouldn't you say also because of the idea of the different perceptions and everybody's different, that some of, like I said, some of that channeling
Mhm,
information that may
mhm.
not make sense to you, or is that what you're saying really? Is that some, you know, because one of the other questions that I wanted to talk about in the direction I said might take us out there a little bit is the connection to kind of otherworldly
Mhm.
realms and entities, right? So you talk about Archangel Michael, and I guess when you talk about Metatron, you are kind of talking about a more universal
Yeah,
source than an earthly source, right?
right.
So my question is really outside the cosmology of it all, right? So do you channel let's say other star systems, galactic entities, or is it
Mhm.
all kind of more like Archangel Michael and more I don't want to say religion based, but earthly based, you
I
know?
I go broad and wide. I work with many different galactic beings and many different, let's call them, uh, species of galactic beings, different councils, and I'm not working with them constantly, but it
Mhm,
seems like that they'll come in to my awareness to work
mhm,
and bring a piece of information and an assistance. So it's not just the normal, the archangels, those that we're always really hearing about, but
mhm,
it's like, and Metatron really is great for helping the the expansion of my consciousness, so that I can kind of pull that to me
mhm,
and
mhm,
work with it. So yeah,
mhm,
I'm kind of all over the place, right?
mhm,
So
mhm,
that's what, so, so I was telling my daughter that I'm kind of a psychotic psychic, right? It's
mhm.
like, a little here, a little there, some of this,
Right.
some of that, right?
Right. Well, I think you used the word earlier, the word conduit, right? Like I
Yes.
feel like once you kind of attain a certain,
Mhm,
I'm going to call it a few things, right? Attain a certain like knowledge, right? But that's also a certain frequency,
mhm,
right? That
mhm.
you kind of become this conduit, and so there are other entities that maybe sense that and are like, oh, there's this conduit, and they kind of zone in on it and can bring it. So you mentioned particularly kind of channeling 17 or beyond that, probably more like infinite, you know what I mean? I feel like there's infinite possibilities, right? So it's just like
Absolutely.
you
Yeah,
never know, you can just channel a being that is,
yeah,
XYZ, you know what I mean?
right.
And that's what they call themselves. And
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know
and one of the cool things is that when I'm, mentoring people, because that's one of the things that I do as mentor,
Mhm,
I get to be in connection with all kinds of beings because they're coming through my students as well. And it's just, it's extraordinary. It's really extraordinary.
Very cool.
I've gotten to experience some things that have just permanently been etched on my heart. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Etched on your heart, did you say? Or your art?
Yeah, permanently etched on my heart.
Okay. I was going to say, I didn't even, because I did a little research. So I'm like, I didn't know you were an artist. I didn't see any like paintings or anything that you did.
No.
Okay, good. Permanently etched on your heart. No, that's great. No, I have experienced some truly phenomenal things, like you said, kind of just in company, right, of people who channel, and I did a weekend with, particularly handpicked people who were kind of very high vibe, and it was such a great thing. And I've told the story, so I don't want to get into it too much, but I was there as a photographer, so I was kind of bartering my services. But as a photographer, part of the weekend was offering each person a portrait of themselves, kind of in this different environment. We were at this beautiful house with all these different places to shoot and everything, and because of this situation that I was in, I had a much different experience than everybody else, because I was the only one who got to spend 20 minutes individually with everybody, and talk to them a little bit about who they were and what they liked in order to get this portrait. And that was my thing as a photographer. And even why I was there is because I had been told, oh, you captured a part of me that I don't think anybody else has ever seen, and so this one particular woman, she told me that one of her guides was Pablo Picasso, and that Pablo Picasso had told her to tell me this and that I would understand it. And Pablo Picasso said to her that I should shoot the photo of her through through the window, like maybe she's outside and I'm inside and shooting it through the window, or a reflection in a window. Like, that's what she said to me. And I had just happened to have gotten the week before a gift from somebody, this thing called a lens ball, which is like a crystal ball that photographers use to take photos of, and it like inverts the image, and it's just a cool little kind of prop. And I was like, oh wow, like I pulled it out. I was like, I guess I'm supposed to use this, with you. And we took a portrait of her. But it was just such an amazing experience, because again, just her relaying what she said to me, I could have been like, you're a kook, you know what I mean? But I just, like, I knew it was real. Like, I was like, awesome.
Yeah.
Like, Pablo Picasso is kind of tapping on my shoulder, you know what I mean? And that felt really, really amazing.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great story.
Yeah. I love telling it. Thank you. Raven is asking, is there a specific star being that you love working with? Good question.
I love working with the Elohim, and I know that they are not traditionally considered star beings, but I really like working with them because of their connection to a lot of the star beings. I love connecting with Ashtar and the Ashtar Command. They are an extraordinary consciousness. I also like working with what's called the Great White Brotherhood of Light. They are, they're Metatrons companions quite often, and it's like a powwow, sitting down in a circle of all of these beings with Metatron, and it's really extraordinary. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Super exciting. And I love one of the things, again, that I feel like is important is authenticity, right? And I love the fact that that people are able to talk about these things like openly, and because I think 10 years ago or 20 years ago they were so far out there, like when I first heard of channelers and the Galactic Council, I was just like, what are they talking about? You know what I mean? And I was just like, and I've always been like, hey man, whatever floats your boat, you know what I mean? But it just through the years started to kind of make sense and come around and make other connections, you know what I mean? Everything's so connected, and it's so cool to like kind of dig down these rabbit holes and see how things are connected.
Absolutely. Well,
And
maybe I can come another time and I'll channel Metatron.
I would be honored to have anybody channel anybody, but to have you specifically, because I know so many people have said so many great things about you, Wendy. When I said I'm having you on the show, everyone's like, "Oh my God, I love Wendy!" Like people I didn't even, and people who weren't in our class. So I was really happy that I had connected with you and gotten this opportunity. And you have been such a wonder to talk to. I'm glad we got this point. I feel like we have not even, the tip of the iceberg. We just grazed the tip of the iceberg here, I think.
There's so much more. There's always more, right? There's
Totally.
always more. I always tell people I don't set a New Year's resolution. I just sit down and I ask, what's the more? And so there's always more. Always more.
Awesome. Well, I don't want to necessarily sign off early. We still got a couple of minutes here. If you're good, I mean,
I'm good.
I did realize I'm getting old, and this is late. This is late for a show. Like I should be in my pajamas. I don't know if anybody noticed, but I adopted this vest as my live stream of consciousness vest. Whatever shirt I'm happen to be wearing, I just pop on the vest, and it looks like I came dressed for the occasion. So I figured this is my new live stream of consciousness vest. Let me ask you a question. Did you enjoy your experience
this evening? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, good. I'm excited. I feel like like we were talking about earlier, like all of these things I've been the Akashic Records was the first time I really sat down and took a class to develop my intuition, and I certainly feel like I tapped into my intuition, but I feel like there's so much more to learn and explore, and the right thing is just going to knock me on the head. And I do feel like this is part of that path is, this will bring the right people to me to have the right discussions, to trip that right information, and it'll happen, which is why I want to continue to talk to you after I stick you in the green room. Grace Grella says it works great. And I definitely love it. So I guess I will ask you if you have any kind of words of wisdom, or from my audience, as far as like just life and living happy, and if you feel like everybody can channel and you want them to know that, is there some advice towards that? And you know what I mean?
So if you're interested in learning how to channel, if you're really wanting to further your spiritual journey, I think the key is surrendering a lot of your perceptions, surrendering where you hang on to things, even surrendering your need to know, because sometimes our need to know holds us back. And to be in that place of just being as fluid and as neutral as possible, and then it's like magic happens. Blessings occur, things end up in your lap that you would have never in 1,000 years anticipated. And so if anybody is feeling like they're stuck, please don't give up. Just keep checking in with your guidance, keep taking care of yourselves, and it'll come around. I promise.
That's right. Everybody's here for a reason, and that reason is you. You are the reason you're here, to be you. I always say that. I mean, it's just so clear, right? When you realize it, you're just like, why did I never know that? It just seems so obvious.
Because we're not taught, right? We aren't taught.
That's right. Grace says Wendy is wonderful and that I am vested in the show. Thank you, Grace. I love Grace's humor. Well, again, Wendy, I definitely will have you back. You've offered it, so I'm going to take you up on the offer for you to come back and channel. That's great. I mean, when you channel, how long do you do that for? Just so I know, just so I can set that up. Like, can you channel for an hour?
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome.
I think my longest stint without a break was 5 hours.
Wow. 5 hours of channeling. Raven's out there saying, great job,
Yeah,
guys. Thank you.
yeah,
5 hours seems like a lot of channeling. And
yeah.
what do you feel like after that? Are you exhausted? I imagine you are.
Pooped, a little pooped, right? But not bad. And there's some people in the audience today that have actually been there with me when I've channeled extended amounts of time. So
Awesome. I'm hoping to experience some of that with you for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to put you in the green room. I'm going to say thank you for
Okay.
being here.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to say goodbye to my folks, and I will talk to you in just a minute. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Oh wow, awesome. Are you guys as energized as I am from that? That was really awesome. I'm gonna do my breath. Ready? Are we ready to take a deep breath in, breathe out? Awesome. Oh my God, this is my meditation. This is my happy place. And that's why I come back every week. And I appreciate you guys being here. We got Kathy saying awesome. We got Joyce saying thank you. We got Penny saying I subscribed. I'm gonna ring the bell. So Penny, thank you, Penny, for subscribing. You have rung my bell. Um, Great job, Raven Adams. Thank you. Great show, Shari. Thank you guys so much for being here. You don't understand. That gets me so pumped even more for this. That's just amazing. And Leela, who's been there since day one, says, "Oh my God, freaking amazing show." Mike, thank you so much. Next week, I have Stefano DeFrey, who is a really interesting character. You're going to love him. He is an actor, but he's also a director. He's actually hired me to he hired me to do my first paying acting job. I was actually in one of his movies, my only paying acting job, but it was a lot of fun, and I love being on independent movie sets, which is where I met him. He's coming up next week, so join me next week, and until then, peace out, guys. Good seeing you.